moment where I think a cigarette goes down there, just seconds before he dies. He goes, "Oh, thank God." It's a really nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't even know if I wrote that or if Reynolds did it on the set. Oh, thank God. I am relieved from duty.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Alex. How are you?
David Twohy, good to speak to you. I see this won't work for the audio portion of this show, but you got the memo about the black T-shirt then. We're both going for the black today. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Let's have a vote online and let's see who wears it better.
Yeah, let's start our conversation with a little bit of competition. This is exciting for me though, because I think I mentioned in the email, this is something of a reunion. It has been 17 years since I last interviewed you.
Oh, don't say that. You're talking about Chronicles, after Chronicles came out?
Yeah,
or during its release? Yeah.
It was actually in Vancouver. I visited the set of Chronicles of Riddick, and it's
amazing sets, huh?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, it's to date, and I've been on a fair few sets since then. To date, I think they are the biggest sets of a film I've ever been on. They were vast.
Well, not that that should be any claim to fame, but it might have been the high water mark for building, at least in, during the Vancouver, in the heyday of Vancouver, and certainly not the way we do things today.
No.
But there is something exciting about seeing like a city set go up. And the Necropolis set, when you walk into the Necromonger Grand Hall there, Valhalla, and you see that, and you see it built for real up to the 30-foot mark. There's something very exciting about that, and not just for me as the filmmaker who put it down on paper first and then gets to see it. Who said the great thing about writing? I think it was Ray Bradbury. The great thing about writing is that you can build anything, but so you're used to building it on paper, but to see it go up in wood and plaster and styrofoam and the great artisans who make all that seem real, that is something else entirely. So it may have been the high water mark for building sets, real sets, but the point was that it's not just good for me as the creator, and it just doesn't stroke my ego to see it being built, but for the actors to wander onto that set, and see, oh God, now I get it. Now I get how the grandeur of the Necromonger Empire, and then they play to that. They really play to that.
Yeah, it was like you say, it was the fact that it was 3 stories high, and also, I mean, I love the surface of crematoria bouncing around on that styrofoam surface. It was huge. It was a wonderful experience. And I mean, I'm gonna say it now because it's going to come out at some point in our chat, but Chronicles is my favorite of your Riddick series so far. I will say so far, but I love Chronicles. I'm guessing, is it maybe your favorite too?
So hard to say. First, I'll give you other people's reactions first. I'm going to tell the audience what they think. No, it's funny the reactions you get to all the 3 different movies, because they are very different movies, aren't they? And look, they're aficionados of Pitch Black. They think it's pure and simple and just great simple storytelling with a redeemed character. So they gravitate to that. And then there are the people who thought that was maybe too modest of a film. And then here we come with the grand space opera called Chronicles of Riddick. And suddenly they go, that's what I'm after. I'm after world-ending bad guys, world-ending consequences, and everything we did in that. And weird quasi-deads and half-deads and all the crazy stuff we did in Chronicles. And they love that, as I guess you do. And then there are people who really appreciate us getting back to our roots with Riddick and doing something more streamlined yet again. So, it's not many franchises can bounce around like that in terms of scope, and then in terms of sometimes genre as well. Because the thinking after Pitch Black was that we're going to follow the Riddick character wherever he goes, and even if he goes into a slightly different genre, we will follow him there because he is Riddick. He is Riddick. So that was our mantra for movie 2. And some people think we went too far. The studios certainly think we spent too much. The studios certainly think we built too much, because I remember the president of the studio coming for a tour and just saying, "What? You don't need all this. Why are you building so much?" And maybe it was because we could build as much as we did that we did build, because everyone wants to exercise, work in that environment at least one time in their life, and that was our time.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Pitch Black, and I think, before we talk a little more about Chronicles, it is worth going back to the start. But I did just want to touch on something before we talk about Pitch Black, because obviously you'd been working in the industry for a while before Pitch Black entered your orbit, and you worked on, a couple of iconic films from the 90s, The Fugitive being one, Waterworld being another, and I'm a big fan of that movie. What were those experiences like working on those productions?
Well, let's see. I was just getting started as a writer back then, because I really entered the industry probably about 1980, I guess, something like that. Oh, sorry, I joined the Writers Guild in 1988. So there you go. So I hit pretty quick with The Fugitive, right?
Yeah.
And not many writers are that fortunate to strike gold that early in their career. And that set up my directing career. So question of what was it like on those? I was never on the set of The Fugitive, even though I wrote the original script and did, 4 or 5 drafts. I had a push-pull relationship, love-hate relationship with the producer, Arnold Colpelson, who I had done a small, low-budget horror movie with called Warlock.
Yeah.
And on the first day of production on that set, we were in Plymouth, Massachusetts, freezing our asses off because it was February, and we were at a period facility where this is an old pilgrim facility that's kept up to date. So we were using their facilities to film at, because we had a period section of the movie Warlock. Anyway, cold as hell. We were in this hovel, huddled around a brazier, and the producer of that movie, who was Arnold Colpelson, said, I got these rights to a couple of TV series. You may not remember them. And one was, I forget, and they were the old Keith Bears TV shows from the 60s. And he said the other one's called The Fugitive. And I said, I do remember it. Because not in the first run, but I saw it in reruns. I liked it a lot. I liked David Jansen a lot. And it's Les Miserables. He says, it is? I say, yeah, it's Les Miserables. It's man wrongly accused, and Inspector Javert is Inspector Gerard.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wrote the sewer sequence into The Fugitive as a tribute to the sewer sequence in Les Miserables.
Wow.
So when Tommy Lee Jones is chasing him through the waterways, and then prior to the big jump off, that was the tribute to Les Miserables. So the producer had no idea what he had, and I said, I'll write that. And then we cut a deal right there in the little hovel, in the little yurt. And my agent says, what are you doing negotiating your own deals? I said, well, it seemed opportune, and I got twice what I got on Warlock. He says, I could have got you 3 times, but okay, here you go. But it turned out okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was the little movie that could kind of. I don't think there were huge expectations for it, and then obviously it went on to have so much success. Tommy Lee Jones.
Sorry, are we talking about Warlock, or are we talking about?
Oh, sorry, we're talking about The Fugitive.
Yeah. Well, it was never the little movie that could, because it was always a Warner Brothers movie, and they put a big star in it. So,
but I don't remember. Was it not that? I don't think anyone expected it to sort of snaffle up 7 Oscar nominations. It wasn't. I don't think it was orbiting that arena.
Correct. Nobody was thinking that at the time, and nobody was thinking that it would be the #1 movie in America or North America for 6 weeks running, which is almost unheard of. Unheard of. So that set up a lot of other things for me, including my first directing gig.
And obviously, Waterworld. God, I mean, as a film, I mean, Waterworld is one of those films that somehow still, even now, has this terrible reputation of being a flop, which it never was. It's it's not a flop. Just it had obviously the bad production, stories that emerged from behind the scenes, but when you came to the script, so Peter Radar had written this script, which I mean, it sounds fascinating. By all accounts, this was a kind of surreal script that had the deacon character was called Neptune. He had a trident. He sat on a clam throne. The mariner had a white horse that he hid from people on his boat. Was this?
I forgot about most of this. I forgot about most of that. Yeah, that was in the original script, Peter's script.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
I just want. So, is that the script that you inherited when you started working on it?
I did. I did. I knew Kevin Reynolds, the director, who was going to direct a different movie of mine, Terminal Velocity, but who bailed to do Waterworld because Kevin Costner, he patched things up with Kevin Costner, and they were off and running. So he wanted me to come in and retool, which I did. So I was basically listening to his ideas, throwing in a few of my own, listening to Costner a bit, and then wrote largely what you see on the screen. And Peter and I today share story credit. And Peter and I are so friendly. Sometimes when you rewrite another writer, especially their original work, and you're making sometimes wholesale changes, you know, often that can be an antagonistic situation for writers. But Peter and I actually got to be friends afterwards, and that's cool.
And was it as chaotic as the stories go behind the scenes on that film?
As I understand it, yeah, I was on the set, but for a few days. But yeah, Kevin Reynolds tells some wild stories. There was one day when they were filming a shot. He wanted to get a hero shot, a trailer shot, with Kevin Costner in the crow's nest of the trimaran. Mm-hmm. And he wanted it against the sun. So Costner is saying, like, do I have to be there? I've got a stuntman. You can put him up there. No, we got to put you up there. And we got to lash you up there because it could be, you know, for safety reasons, we've got to lash you up there. So Costner did it. And Reynolds, the director, is in the helicopter. And so he's starting on an 11:1 zoom, which was the biggest at the time. And he starts on a medium close-up of Costner into the wind, just like the bow shot from Titanic, right? And then you pull back, the helicopter circles around, and then the trimaran, you see a small trimaran heading into the sun. So they did that a few times right around sunset. They got their shot. Kevin Reynolds says, "Bye, I'll see you at the bar in town." But then the sundowner winds come up, and Costner is still lashed to the mast. And so apparently he's going from side to side, and it's so severe that they can't even unlash him to get him down. So he has to just ride out the sundowner winds, just going back and forth, lashed. So that's kind of craziness that was going on, among other things like the atoll set sinking.
Yep.
Sinking. But, you know, it got a lot of, Waterworld got a lot of abuse heaped on it before anybody had seen it. And that was my objection. I mean, you can look at the movie now and critique it. I think it's a great first half of a movie. And the second half gets kind of choppy. And sometimes you don't know why characters are doing the things they are or how they knew to do things that they needed to do. And that's because the movie was running long, very long. And the studio came in and took the movie away from Reynolds and started chopping it up. So that's why it's chopped in the second half. But it's a hell of a rousing adventure movie, at least in the first half and sometimes throughout.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it even now, and I guess especially now, and you can't fault the ambition of that film in terms of what they set out to do, what you all set out to do, and doing it at sea. I mean,
by the way, Rader tells a funny story about how when he first was pitching the script around, he took the script or the idea to like Roger Corman, who was the king of the low budget movies, and Corman looked at him and looked at the script and says, "Are you kidding? Are you crazy? This is going to cost me $5 million."
Of what made it onto screen, is there something that you're personally most proud of that you contributed to that film? Is there a moment that you love that even now you look back on and go, I'm glad that made it in. I'm glad I included that. I'm glad I came up with that.
The set pieces are sort of what Reynolds was really looking to me to supply. So the trimaran hunt in the beginning, I think the whole concept, not the whole concept of the atoll, that was in Peter's original. But the whole attack where the biplane or the plane is circling a ship, it harpoons it. The plane itself gets harpooned, and then it starts winding itself up on the mast, going round and round, and the circumference gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. All that kind of stuff, and the funny stuff of the below the hold of the what turns out to be the Exxon Valdez, that the smokers are down there. Running around in like old Cadillacs and shit like that. You know?
Yeah.
That's me and Reynolds sort of going off into bizarre humor land together. And then the deacon is throwing out cigarettes like you'd throw out, mana just to keep the populace under control.
Yeah.
And then there was a little guy.
The guy in the oil. Yeah.
Yeah. That guy. I just remember it. I haven't thought of him in probably many a year, but there's this little guy down at the bottom, and he's the human fuel gauge.
Yeah.
So he's got a little boat at the bottom. How much more we got? Not much, sir. And then it's like, kill that guy. I don't like the answer he gave me.
Yeah, that's he's beautiful. It's the moment where I think a cigarette goes down there, just seconds before he dies, and he goes, "Oh, thank God." It's a really nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't even know if I wrote that or if Reynolds did it on the set. Oh, thank God. I am relieved from duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a fun experience. And obviously, one other thing before we get to Pitch Black is.
By the way, let me just finish up on Waterworld really quick.
Yeah, of course.
I was getting so disgusted with all the criticism that was heaped on this movie before it was released, while they were still filming, just based on its budget, that I took out full-page ads in Hollywood Reporter and Variety and said, hey, if your occupation, if your livelihood depends on anything in this business, whether you're a writer, a director, craft service, cinematographer, sound guy, you should just shut the hell up until the movie comes out, then criticize the movie. Because if you're doing it now, you're just feeding on yourself, right? You're just dragging down your own industry for no good reason because you haven't seen the movie yet. So, and by the way, why are we obsessed about a budget? If the movie is $175 million, which I think it was, and that causes the price of the movie ticket to go up, to double on you, then you can bitch about the price of the budget. But other than that, why are you even talking about the budget? It's going to be $750 in the theater, no matter what you say about the budget.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. That's very true. It is this fascination that people have, and even I'd probably say even more so now, with social media, with the stories behind movies and things going wrong, and the rumor mill, how it turns and how that generates press in itself. It's yeah. That was a big thing. That's quite a bold thing to do, to take out full-page ads. And I mean, it kind of leads nicely on to my next question, really, which was, I believe this story does end up with quite another bold move for a writer in the industry, which was your experience of working on Alien 3. So just to paint a picture for anyone who doesn't know the story behind Alien 3, where you fit into the chronology, it was William Gibson's script. So William Gibson had written a script, and that was the script that then you came on board and were, I guess, presented with as the script to develop, work on, improve.
If you say so.
Okay.
Meaning some of the pedigree of these scripts in the script chains, you may know more about than I do. But yeah, there was another writer beforehand. I think it was William Gibson. I cannot remember anything about his script, except perhaps it was way too cyberpunky. Perhaps. Yeah,
I think the story. Well, as far as I know, because his script then got made into a graphic novel, so it found its way into the ether eventually. But it was a script that jettisoned Ripley quite early, as it's the is the big thing about that script. It was a script that lost Ripley. And as far as, and again, obviously you're the right man to tell me, but as far as I was aware, that was one of the things that was tasked to you, was to find a way to bring Ripley back, because Fox weren't happy about Ripley not being in it.
Yes and no. It goes like this, and it's quite a saga. It's like, how do I tell it concisely? But I was brought aboard by the producers, Walter Hill, David Giler, and those guys. And they said, and because they had read The Fugitive. And Walter Hill even wanted to direct The Fugitive at one point. So they were keen to bring me on board. So there I was. Rennie Harlan was attached to the director at the time. And all I remember Rennie saying is, "I want to see sex in space." So I said, okay, we can do that. But there should be a larger story around that.
Yeah.
So I think in Gibson's, oh God, I can't even remember. But in terms of Ripley, they said, and we don't need Sigourney in it at the time. That was the feeling when I did my first draft. We don't need Sigourney in this because for whatever reason. I said, fine, I'll do that. So I wrote an escape story in space. There is an orbiting space station, and it's a breakout movie with aliens, right? And they're using the prisoners to experiment on with the aliens to understand the aliens better. And there's all kinds of jeopardy. It was a good action script. But then Joe Roth takes over the studio, Fox, and he reads the script. He says, it is a good action movie, but I'm not going to make the movie without Sigourney Weaver. And so I go back to the producers and our huddle with the producers after that meeting. I said, has anyone talked to her? I said, no, we haven't talked to her. I said, oh, well, somebody ought to, because, that'd be the next step. And so for some reason, I got sent out to New York just on my own to talk to Sigourney. And I told her the story that we had, and I think she may have read the existing script. And I said, so if I can take the male character Styles and turn that into Ripley with this conversion idea, this conversion idea, this conversion idea, is that something you'd be interested in? And at the end of a 2-hour meeting with Sigourney, she says, yeah, I think I'd like to do this. Of course, they're backing it up with $1 million offer as well. So she may have been predisposed. But so I remember getting on the plane, calling the producers from the plane and saying, okay, she's in, let's get going. So I wrote my second draft with Ripley. I think I wrote my second draft with Ripley. But before I'd finished my second draft, I heard that they had replaced the director and put on the New Zealand guy. Vincent Ward. Thank you. And that Vincent Ward was working with his writer on an Alien script. Now, this is while I'm writing my second draft with Ripley in it and talking to Sigourney along the way, filling her in from time to time. So I call up the studio. And by the way, if a studio is allowed to engage two screenwriters at once, as long as they make it apparent, as long as there's full transparency, so that the writer can jump off a project or stay on if, in fact, it turns into a bake-off situation.
Right.
So I called up the studio, the exec of the studio, who is now a film critic, I think. Or no, he's a film producer now. And I said, so what is this about competing drafts of Alien 3? And he said, oh, no, it's not that at all. You don't have to worry about that at all. You're writing Alien 3. Vincent, the director of Alien 3, is writing Alien 4. Yeah. So I said, this is horse shit.
You're not even trying. You are not even trying to lie.
It's not that, it's not only is it a terrible lie, but you're making me, you think I'm stupid enough to believe it. Wow. That's what's so insulting. That's what's doubly insulting. And so it's just treacherous behavior by the studio. So I slapped the script together and said, pay me. There you go. And I think that was the last I worked on Alien 3. So I probably did 2 drafts. Maybe there might have been a third in there. I'm not sure. That's what happened. And then Vincent Ward got kicked off because, in lieu of David Fincher.
Did you ever watch the final movie? Did you see anything that you liked about it, or did you see any of your work in there? In that,
I saw my name in there because, as an inside joke, all the monks. I didn't have monks in space. All the monks were named for all the previous writers.
Oh wow! I did not know that.
So I think there's an Eric and there's a David, and there may have been a Vincent for all I know. But if you look at those names, there's an Easter egg in the names.
Oh, that's great. Right, let's talk about your Alien movie, the movie that really generated one of the most iconic characters in sci-fi for a long time. I'm a huge fan of Riddick. When you first were involved in the script, I'm right in thinking Radar Pictures, a small production company, have a script that they show to you, and at that stage, it's called Nightfall.
Yes.
And they're interested in you taking on this script, improving it because it needed a lot of work, with a view to potentially directing this movie. And this is the movie that would become Pitch Black.
Yes. Originally called Nightfall. To be confused with the short story by Isaac Asimov called Nightfall, which also has a spectacular eclipse at its core. So I mentioned that. There's a similarity here that we may want to not embrace but avoid.
Yeah.
So that resulted in the title change to Pitch Black. So yes, Radar came to me and they started playing this game. Well, if you can make the script better enough that we can get it made, meaning get financing, get our Lord and Masters Polygram to say yes, then you can direct it. And it's a game I played, many times before and sometimes mostly lost at, including The Fugitive, where they played this game with me. Warner Brothers played this game with me. If you can, all right, you can direct it if you can get one of these 7 guys to say yes. And they were the 7 guys at the time,
Wow.
Okay. We'll leave it there.
No, you can tell me. I mean, it's ancient history now.
Well, here's another bit of studio treachery and producerial treachery. They played this game with young directors or writers who are up and coming who want to direct. It's like, all right, we'll let you direct if you can get one of these 7 guys to star in your movie. And the 7 guys were Tom Cruise, Kevin Costner, Harrison Ford, fill in the blanks, whoever it was at the time. I think I maybe lobbied to put Alec Baldwin on there because he was, it was around Red October time. He was hot.
Yeah.
And I thought he was somebody I could get. I didn't think I could get those other guys, but maybe Alec Baldwin. So he may have been on the list as well. And so I finished probably my second draft, and it's it's a hot script in town. People are really digging it. And then the producer calls me up and says, "Sorry, you're fired." This is Arnold Copelson again.
Right.
"You're fired." "Really? Why is that?" "Well, the studio just thinks you're written out," which is the classic reason for jettisoning a writer, right? The classic reason given.
Well, which means what? You've done all that you can do on it when they say written out?
That's what it's supposed to mean. But in actuality, it means Harrison Ford read it, likes it, wants to do it. Harrison Ford is on the list of people that we gave you to get, but he's not going to do it with you.
Right.
Or we're not going to let you do it with him.
Okay.
Because he doesn't want to work with second-time directors, right? He wants to work with. And so, boom, gone. Just like that. So that was, how did we get off on that story? Oh, so that's the game they play with up-and-coming writers and neophyte directors. They played the game again on me with Pitch Black, but this time it worked. And this time it worked because the budget was contained. We were talking about a $20 million picture, not an $80 million picture. So it worked this time. I bettered the script, improved the script. Polygram wanted to make it. And so they said, "We're up and running. Now who's going to star in it?"
And I'm right in thinking that the character Riddick was not in this original script. There was something. It was a criminal. There was a criminal of sorts, but this Riddick was something you built from pretty much the ground up.
Correct. There was a female criminal board who is not the lead and who is not the Riddick character that we know. Yeah, something else. It played us entirely differently.
Obviously, Vin is Riddick. Riddick is Vin. You know, he's of all the characters Vin has in his arsenal. Riddick is my personal favorite. He is for a lot of people. I don't think I'm alone in saying that. But Vin wasn't an immediate shoo-in. There was someone else who was being suggested quite heavily that you cast as Riddick. I'm right in thinking that.
Somebody else that I didn't cast as Riddick, you mean?
Somebody else who you did not cast, but who was being heavily pushed for the role.
Would you be thinking of Steven Seagal?
I would be thinking of Steven Seagal. I only discovered this the other day, and it amazed me. I'm like, what a different film that would have been had Steven Seagal ended up as the Riddick we know. How did that happen? What happened? Well done.
I was down in Australia in pre-production and just starting to build sets down there. It's got locations and starting to secure stage space. And we still hadn't cast the Riddick role. And people were getting nervous. And so somebody from Radar said to me, how about Steven Seagal? He gets the movie made. And I said, not going to do that. Just not going to do that. And they said, well, David, it may be, you may have the choice of making the movie with Steven Seagal or not making the movie at all, because we may just get shut down by Polygram. You can't deliver somebody of note. And so I said, I would rather shut it down.
Wow.
So that was one of those moments where you think, where you're on the phone and you realize this is a life-changing moment right here.
Yeah.
You know, which way am I going to go?
And had you seen Vin by this point?
No. So I'm talking to a mid-level guy at Radar, and I said, I'd rather shut it down. So there's your answer. Take it back to your Lord and Masters. And so then the Lord and Masters call me up, and they go, well, here's the situation. We sent him the script. He likes it. He wants to do it. And we said, the part is yours pending a meeting with the director, which was the saving grace. So I'd come back to LA. So I let them know I'm not doing it, but they asked me to take the meeting anyway, to come back to LA, take the meeting, and then blow the meeting. Find a way to blow the meeting, which was not hard to do because you couldn't see him in the role there. I mean, you couldn't put that character that you'd written and Steven Seagal together and in any way see the movie working. No, I thought it ought to be somebody that we weren't familiar with and didn't carry all that baggage with him. So that's out of desperation when the same guy who was actually pitching Steven Seagal, Ted Field, had the now brilliant idea of Vin Diesel. He says, what about this guy? I know him a bit. He's kind of a filmmaker. He's kind of a hustler, but he's got the look. He's got the voice. What do you think? And so Vin and I talked, and then he auditioned. We put him on a film with Rada and Cole. And then we cast him off that. So we're basically got down to the place that most directors dream of. It's like, just, okay, I'm down to the best available cast. I'm just able to cast the best available cast. And that was those three people.
And I might be wrong here, but initially it was much more of a triple header with the three of them, wasn't it? Riddick wasn't quite as much of a focal point as he was towards the end. In the original script, it was more of a Cole and Rada and Vin equally.
It was considered a three-hander going in, even though Cole was only around for the first 70% of the movie. And if anything, I thought it was probably Fry's movie. the Rodder Mitchell character. But then, these things happen. These things change as you edit, as you test screen, as you see the audience's reaction, and they love them their Riddick. So when we had to go back and sort of ground the audience at the opening of the movie better than we were, we added a voiceover. We had a voiceover from Riddick's perspective, and that started to set the tone for the shift to more it being more Riddick's movie.
And then, I mean, we've kind of caught up to where we started, which was Chronicles, but there's more than Chronicles to still cover. So I won't go too deep, but I do remember, Vin, the quote I loved at the time. And I'm sure he maybe said it with a cheeky smile on his face, but he described Chronicles as if Pitch Black was The Hobbit, Chronicles was The Lord of the Rings. And, that really got my juices going, for want of a better expression. I thought that was great. I've said it numerous times on various podcasts. It upsets me a great deal that we did not get the planned trilogy that you had for Riddick following on from the Chronicles of Riddick. How do you feel about that?
Well, had money been no object after Chronicles, the writing in this case is dictated by the success of the previous movie. You're only as good as your last movie. So the studio thought we overspent at $105 million for Chronicles, because they did, well, ultimately they're going to recoup that, of course, but it wasn't immediately remunerative enough for them. So they said, we're out of the Riddick, not just we're not doing Riddick 3, but we're out of the Riddick game. But Vin, in his sagacity, secured the rights to the next movie as a trade-off for his cameo in Fast 3.
Yeah, amazing.
So we're up and running again. So remember, Universal kicked us to the curb because they thought we spent too much money and didn't make enough money back, which is, their option, and it's their privilege to do so. But now, Vin and I are making it independently. I'm writing the script on spec. We go out, we're starting to talk to Sony about distributing it. And then Universal steps back in. They say, well, what about us? They said, no, you didn't want to do this movie. you kicked us to the curb. So what are we? Yeah. But that was, now you're making it for a more reasonable amount. So anyway, we wound up raising the money independently for the third movie, and Universal stepped in as a distributor, which is kind of the best of all worlds anyway. So that worked out great. And it's probably the role model for the fourth movie as well. The business model for the fourth movie. So what was the original question?
Well, it was really about, I guess the question now is, how different is the Riddick that you ended up making, as in movie number 3, Riddick? How different is that to what you initially had planned as the third installment?
Well, very different, because it's dictated by budget now. So we know what is feasible and what is not feasible. The original thinking was that we would play with the third movie, original thinking, remember, where money was no object. We would go to the Underverse, pursue Kira through the Underverse, play Orpheus Descending, and all the wildness and craziness that would entail, and spectacle. But realizing that we didn't have the money to do that for the third movie, we said, let's do something else, and let's do something that fits the budget. And that was sort of the Jeremiah Johnson approach. Which is stranded on a planet. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. So Underverse still looms. I'm trying to talk Vin and others into doing that as a console game.
Oh, wow.
It'd be hell of a good console game, right? I mean, just amazing. Because we've already done a video game and it was successful. It was a breakout movie, Escape from Butcher Bay.
Yeah.
And people really liked it, and it did well. So there's no reason that we can't spin off some of these stories to the gaming world. And I think that's perfect for the gaming world. While Riddick 4 would then, I know that's going to be your next question, Riddick 4 would then sort of take us back to Furia, which is Riddick's home planet, and we would do his origin story there.
Well, you knew what my next question was going to be. I mean, you call it Riddick Furia. He's going home. I mean, this has been the overarching journey that he's been on, like especially since Chronicles. So you're sending him home now. I saw, I think it was way back in 2019, which seems like a different time now. I think I saw Vin waving what looked like a finished script, or may have been a treatment. I don't know. This is 2019. He's got a script in his hand on his Instagram account.
He was waving the treatment. Yes, at the treatment of the time. People thought it was a finished script. It wasn't. But the script is finished now. We were hoping to get cracking on it pre-pandemic. And now nearly post-pandemic, we're hoping to get cracking on it again. So we'll start to get serious about it pretty soon here.
So it's all ready to go. And like, just to confirm, so you are self-financing again this time, giving yourself that freedom, and then perhaps someone distributing it, a studio or other coming in to distribute it?
Anything's possible, but I think we would follow the Riddick 3 model of independent financing and then somebody like Universal or Sony stepping in to distribute.
Potentially. I just, you sort of look at the landscape of the way films are put out there now. And obviously you've got these streaming services, your Netflix, your Amazon. An existing IP like this with a built-in fan base seems like purpose built for these streaming services to get on board with and potentially go, great, let's make that fourth movie. What do you want? We've got deep pockets.
Yeah, there's that opportunity as well. Yeah.
Good. That was a very diplomatic answer, David. I appreciate it. Well, listen, I guess all I want to know is, are you excited, and is Vin excited about this fourth movie? And should I be excited? Because I know you can't tell me anything and it would spoil it for me. I don't need to know too much. I just want to know, is it the Riddick 4?
Thanks for that, for not probing too much. The question is, are we excited? Yeah. Yeah, I am. Not many filmmakers get an opportunity to do these we're sort of a handcrafted franchise, if that makes much sense, because all the really big franchises, Fast and things like that, are overseen by studios and overseen by a phalanx of executives, and we don't work that way. We are smaller and more nimble and more handcrafted, and sometimes it shows when we try to stretch the dollars too thin. You can't go to ILM to do your effects, and you don't have 15 iterations of every visual effect shot. You got to try to get it right in 4, 5, 6 iterations, so that you don't grind your company out of existence, your visual effects company out of existence. But there is something very immediate about that and something very tactile about that kind of filmmaking, which I enjoy. So not many filmmakers have the opportunity to do a franchise that is enduring, a franchise that has a big star who is willing to go to, any ends to make it work, even cutting his salary, which Vin did for the third one, but to become a proper participant instead, which is what he and I did for the third one. So it's just, it's a very exciting way to make films because it's not overly managed and it's not overly studiofied, and we can still be a little raw and do well because of it.
And I think what comes across to a fan like me and fans of the Riddick series is both yours and Vin's love for the character. I mean, at various points, both of you could have gone, well, that's that. And yet you haven't. You've gone and you've made these movies, you've self-financed these movies. And I guess part of that is the knowledge that there is a very vocal fan base out there for them.
There is, and Vin keeps it alive as much as anyone, probably more than anyone, because he does love the character and he realizes there's still potential in the character. So kudos to him. He's great like that, of just keeping the drumbeat going. And that's because, as much as people love Dom and Fast Furious, and that's what he's most known for, I'm thinking that the second most notable character he's played is Riddick, and he hears that when he goes out and talks to the fans, when he hits the press circuit for Fast 9, or Fast 10 or Fast 11 or whatever we're up to, he'll hear that. And what about Riddick? And what about Riddick? So the drum beat starts there, and then Vin picks it up and he drum beats it as well.
Yeah. It's
sometimes
cool
because it's organic anyway, and that's what's nice.
And it does happen the other way around. I've sat in a junket interview with Vin for Fast and Furious, and he's tried to rush the end of the interview so he could get his iPad out to show me some footage he had on it of Riddick. And I was like, this is amazing. Thank you. I do have to ask some Fast and the Furious questions, otherwise I lose my job. But let me see that Riddick footage. So I love that.
Yeah.
Mr. David Twohy, it's honestly I have one final question, which is, can I come full circle and be on the set of Riddick Furia? Because it will be a nice loop. I'll have been there for Chronicles, and then, 17 years later, I'll be on the set for Riddick Furia.
It would be nice to get back and shoot a movie in London, which is where you are.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, and you're in LA, right?
Because I did my submarine movie Below, my haunted submarine movie Below.
Yeah.
In 2002.
That's a great movie. That is, it's so annoying that more people haven't seen that movie. It is terrifying. I had Dexter Fletcher on this very show a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, and he was talking about that movie, fond memories. Yeah.
It was great. I mean, I had the greatest cast. When you have guys who are just willing to go, most of the times on movies, actors retreat to their trailers, and you put out a call. You go, oh, fuck, how long is it going to take the actor to get out of his trailer now, the lead guy or whoever it is? And it takes like 20 minutes just to get people. You make the call, and then 20 minutes later, everyone's there on the set. All right, what are we doing? It's like, that wasn't there. I mean, I had Dexter Fletcher, I had Jason Fleming, I had Olivia Williams.
Zach Galifianakis in an early role.
Zach's in the movie. And they were all there. They liked it so much that they were hanging around on set. I mean, we had a big submarine set built at Shepperton, right? And a lot of floor space. And they would be like on the set, within reach, within sight, playing chess. They had a chess tournament going, Mm-hmm. And they were hanging around all the time. They'd rather be on set than alone in their trailers. They'd rather be with me and the crew people and the other actors. And they were just there at the ready to go. And that doesn't happen in every movie. And I don't know. So very fond memories. I'm glad Dexter has fond memories too. But yeah, I'd love to come back to London, shoot again. Great crews and great artisans there.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah. Dexter did actually say one of the parts he loved was the fact that when he dies in that movie, spoiler, but Kingsley, his character, dies, and he said completely by chance, his leg ended up in the back of another shot in his death pose. So he got 3 days extra work lying on his back being a corpse.
Yeah. I think he's right. I think that actually happened, yeah.
David, fantastic to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with Riddick Furia, man.
Alex, thank you so much.